Right, good evening everyone, and welcome to this episode of Besson Fridays at Home. We're here with you again on another Friday night. Thank you so much for tuning in and being with us. I'm joined here tonight by my usual collaborators, Stephen Mead and Roger Webster. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Philip.
Evening.
Nice to see you again. And
nice
everyone.
to see you too. And this week we're joined by two very, very special guests, and that is the current principal horn of the Corey band, Elsa Russell, and Ailsa's predecessor in that seat, Owen Farr. So it's a very, very tenor horny evening this evening, isn't it? Good evening, Ailsa and Owen.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Hi.
And I thought, just to go with the mood, I thought I might bring this with you as well, and just wondered what you were thinking about.
Step
being
away from the tenor horn.
Roger, 3-2.
Terrible. We're really
Step
outnumbered. We're really outnumbered this time. But we will get revenge, Phil. We've got euphonium and tuba lined up for the next week, so it's going to be fun.
That's not revenge for me.
For this week, I think we've got a pretty decent horn section here amongst me, Owen, and Elsa. As long as I can play second horn.
As long as someone steals the mouthpiece, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be talking tenor horn and more with Owen and Elsa in just a moment. And then once we've caught up with both of them, we'll be having a little look around the lockdown and catching up with the lockdown latest from around the banding world. We'll also look at the subject of support for bands, financial support as well, and look at some of the packages which have recently become available or are available. And then to round off the evening, we'll have some practice tips for those of you that are practicing at home. And as you can see, we've got four of the best in the business here to offer you some practice tips. So that's what we've got coming up this evening on Besson Fridays at Home. Right, first of all, let's turn to our first guest this evening, Elsa Russell, someone with whom I'm very familiar. Obviously, she plays principal horn with the Corey band and has done for the last 5 years. So before we dive in with Elsa, let's have a listen to some of her fantastic tenor horn playing. Contests are a far cry away at the moment, and we're on this interminable lockdown. So what have you been up to during lockdown? Have you been playing much? Are you still working? What's happening with you?
Yeah, I think, well, playing wise, I remember at the start I was one of those naive people that thought maybe this was just going to be for a few weeks, this lockdown. So I was thinking, oh great, I'll just have a couple of weeks off of playing because I never get to do this. So for the first couple of weeks, I really just practiced like 20 minutes a day or whatever, just to keep my whipping a bit. But then as I realised that it was going to be going on quite a long time, I've just got back into it. I think everyone will have seen the videos that Corey have been doing, posting on Facebook and things. And so, I mean, Phil's just made sure that we have to be in practice. So it's not really an option anymore to not practice.
No, very good. And I understand work's keeping you busy as well. So you've got lots to do.
Yeah, I work for the probation service, so that's always busy. Yeah. So
tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are now as principal horn of the Corey band, because yours is a story that, as you know, I mean, I tell it a lot in concerts that we do, and it really chimes with me, your particular story. So can you tell us all about how it started for you and where you got where you are today?
Yeah, well, I started playing when I was 9. My brother is a bit older than me. He plays a tuba, so he already played and had lessons in school. So when I was 9, I just started getting lessons, and the tenor horn was just in the cupboard. I've never played anything apart from the tenor horn, so that's how I ended up on that. It was just the one in the cupboard at school, and I just enjoyed it. And just ended up going to like my local band. My teacher was a pyrotechnic teacher in school, and he also conducted the band. So basically, it was just all my school friends in a band called the Arbroath Instrumental Band, and it was just a second section band. So yeah, I played it for my whole childhood until I went to music college, basically.
We've got some nice pictures of you, Ailsa, from when you were very young. So everyone's going to be watching these while we're talking. That's great.
was that Mike Robertson, your teacher?
Yeah, it was.
He's churned a lot of good players out, hasn't he? He's been very influential in Scotland.
Yeah, it's mad as well, because we all just had 20 minutes a week in term time. No one had sort of private lessons with anyone, or 20 minutes at school, and that was it. And I think he's had maybe at least 20 students go on to music college, and he's had quite
very good.
And when I was in school as well, I was in part of the National Youth Brass Band of Scotland as well, and that was probably what really opened my eyes to maybe the wider banding world, because in Carnoustie it's a small town, and really we didn't know much about brass bands apart from our own. Really didn't even know Whitburn or these sort of the bigger bands in Scotland. We just went to school and went to band, and that was it. But when I went to the Youth Band of Scotland, I kind of was tutored by Leslie Howie and conducted by Richard Evans, and there was loads of good tutors in. There was Brian Taylor as well. And it kind of just opened my eyes to maybe the wider brass band world, and maybe there was more potential in it than we knew, sort of thing. So
you went on the tour to Japan with them as well, didn't you, Ailsa?
Yeah, I did, and I think that was in 2007, and you were a guest soloist.
I was there too. Yeah, I mean, it was such a beautiful trip. It's a shame we didn't have bigger audiences, but really memorable visit. Yeah, and you've done an awful lot since then.
So you came from Scotland down to Wales in 2009, I think it was, wasn't it? What was the attraction with Cardiff and the Royal Welsh College?
Well, I remember I auditioned at the Northern and Welsh College, and I remember my parents, I was only 16 at the time, and they sent me on my own to the auditions. They didn't come with me because they said, oh, well, you need to just work out which place you feel most comfortable in. So I remember I flew down to Cardiff, and then I just got a taxi on my own to the college for my audition. And there was just something about Cardiff, really, that I just thought, oh, it's a smaller city. And particularly, like, the Owen was the teacher there. That was, like, really the main attraction. And I think, like most brass band students, when they go to Welsh College, everyone kind of has that thing where they think, oh, maybe I'll play for Corey one day if I go there. And it was always my thought. I used to think, oh, well, if I maybe by the end of my 4th year at college, I might get to be second horn at Corey, and that would be the best thing ever. And I just had no idea that I would have gotten that opportunity so soon.
So you must have arrived in September, and you got into Corey when?
November.
Wow.
There we are.
Owen, did you hear the audition that she did at the Welsh College?
Yes.
And presumably you were thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings back good memories, this. And I remember when the first Dawn seat at Corey became available, and we were in a fortunate position where there was plenty of candidates for the job. So it was quite easy to get somebody, but myself and Bob Childs both agreed that having heard Ailsa play, that she showed so much unbelievable potential, that that was what we went for, because you could take a player that could change her playing and improve so rapidly. It was remarkable. So even though maybe some of the older people around were more experienced, on paper would do a better job, Ailsa without question was the one, and well, the rest was history then.
Great. Yeah, the word you just used there, Owen, was the potential, wasn't it? And seeing the potential. But what's been particularly gratifying for me is to see Ailsa kind of reach that potential and realise all that potential. So what was it like when you were 18 years old then, and there you are playing with Corey Band on first tour and sitting next to Owen? How was that, Ailsa?
Were you 18, Ailsa, or were you 17?
I was 18 by the time I joined the band. 17 when I moved down.
A lot older then.
It was definitely a baptism of fire. It was pretty tough. I definitely was there on my potential and maybe not my abilities at the time. Couldn't really play loud enough, or there was just a lot of things to work on at the time. And I'd come straight from a second section band, so I played like a second section band really, and it was just a really steep learning curve to kind of get to the standard required, but maybe I got there in a couple of years, I reckon.
Well, I think
it was a lot quicker than that. I think your progress was incredible.
Yeah, it's a good nurturing environment when you can be sitting next to someone who's as caring about the section and other players as Owen, and obviously he's your teacher as well. So, but you still need that potential in the first place. You've done absolutely brilliant. And of course, so you were in the band for 5 years, I think, on First Torn, was it 5 or 6 years, with Owen as the section leader, and then Owen left in 2015 from Corey. So tell us about what happened next.
Yeah, that was just a really interesting time because I had actually just joined the army at the time. So I had done my basic training, and then I was in phase 2 training, which is at Noah Hall in London. And I know Owen had said he was going to leave the band. And I think you did wait until I was like kind of coming back because you knew the band needed a horn player, didn't you? It wasn't like an abrupt leaving of the band or anything. And I remember thinking, I really would like to have that seat and things. And it was an odd time because I was traveling from London to Treorchy every week to get to band. It was really tiring. And also I knew I had to audition for the seat. It was not like a given sort of thing where, I was on first horn, so it'll be my seat. It wasn't like that at all. So, but fortunately for me, fortunately for me, Phil gave me the chance. So, and that was it really. And then another steep learning curve began.
And just at that time, we had a new flugel player as well, didn't we? And Helen came in. So you had someone else sitting on your left-hand side who has been, I know, really helpful and nurturing with you as well.
Yeah, she's been great actually. She's very encouraging and positive. And I remember one of my first kind of big solos in a test piece was pageantry at the area, and there's quite a lot of solo horn stuff, and for some reason just up till then there just hadn't been as many kind of horn solos in test pieces, and I just remember she was actually breathing with me on stage. she's so helpful and supportive, so yeah, I'm really glad she was there. So away from the band, tell us about some of your hobbies. What have you been doing particularly during lockdown that Tom's been telling me about? Yeah, well, I know that you've dropped me in it already, but when we've all just found ourselves with just a lot more free time than usual, haven't we? So I thought, I'll just learn how to rollerblade. So I just bought some rollerblades and had a bit of a near-death experience because we thought on my first time ever trying since I was maybe 8 years old, we'll just go to the beach. So he's on his bike and I'm on my rollerblades, and it's like a nice flat journey. And then we get to a hill and I realise I don't know how to stop.
Oh dear.
And ended up at my face, to be honest. So
like Dick Van Dyke.
So I've got a question, Ailsa. I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking that when you're at home with Tom, do you play duets together? Do you warm up together? Do you do technical exercises together? Or is it just you do your own thing?
No, we just do our own thing. It's
Okay.
pretty separate. We've got a real different routine. So he's kind of home in the day, and at the moment he's home teaching, but I'm at work. So I kind of have a really strict routine with my practice. I basically get home from work at 6 o'clock, and we live in a terraced house, so we don't like to play, so we don't bother the neighbours. We don't play in the house, so I go straight out to the shed after work and practice in there for about an hour and 15 minutes, and he makes dinner.
Wow.
And that's basically
Right. What's he making tonight?
I think we're having fish cakes tonight.
That's it, Tom.
That's it.
Simple. That's great.
Brilliant.
Elsa, I wish we could carry on talking with you. It's a really fascinating journey that your life has taken you on so far. But thanks for enlightening us on all of that, and best of luck with everything else that comes before you, which is sure to be many years of top quality playing. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And as you've heard from Ailsa, integral to Elsa's story has been our other guest tonight, Owen, as a sort of inspirational, iconic horn player over the last as many years as I can remember, and then Elsa's teacher as well. So really delighted to have you with us here this evening, Owen. I think we've got a little video or something of some of your playing, so let's have a listen to Owen Farr on the tenor horn. Excellent. That was the inimitable Owen Farr there on the tenor horn. So, Owen, great to see you again. And as I already said, it's been 5 years since you've left Corey now. So tell us a little bit about your musical life now, what you get up to from day to day.
Right now we're in lockdown, aren't we? So not too much right now. But the reasons for leaving Corey were to embark on a new venture as a soloist. So that has been something that I really enjoyed over the last 5 years, and I've been expanding and growing. Something I've always wanted to do. I'm very fortunate to work alongside Besson in doing that as well. And it's just opened up lots of other doors for me with different opportunities. So it's very, very exciting. You never know what comes next, and long may it continue.
And as I've said to you once or twice over the years, I mean, when I was growing up playing the tenor horn, I always had this in my mind that I wanted to be a sort of tenor horn soloist, and quite sort of idealistic, really. But for me, it's fantastic to see you kind of out there doing the stuff, and you go all over the world, don't you? I mean, tell us about some of the places that you go to, some of the gigs you do, and you do lots of teaching as well, don't you?
Yeah. Philip, I should be in New Zealand right now. I was really looking forward to that. It was going to be my first solo tour to Australia and New Zealand that was all booked up, and that's sadly something that's fallen due to lockdown. But yeah, I travel all over as a soloist to Japan, America, Europe. I can hear a dog barking.
That's me. Sorry.
It's you.
Well, it's not me. It's not actually.
The dog.
The dog's out.
Is the dog agreeing with me?
Yeah.
I travel. I travel all over as a soloist, which I really enjoy. I love giving master classes and seminars wherever I go as well. I really enjoy doing those. And as a teacher, I have regularly teaching posts at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. I also teach at a comprehensive school just 12 miles down the road as well. So
Wow.
yeah, quite a bit of juggling back and forth, and visiting the Besson factory and different things. So yeah, lots of exciting things.
And we're very proud members of the brass band at Battle Creek, of course.
Absolutely. Well, that was, I played, well, Stephen, you remember, I played with the Battle Creek a few times over probably the last 20 years, but could never be a full-time member of Battle Creek Band because at first I was playing with Fairies and then playing with Corey, and my commitment had to stay there, and there was always clashes and things. But when I finished my banding career, Jim Gray phoned once again, and it became possible. So that's been absolutely fantastic to take up that position and go over to Michigan 2 or 3 times a year and join that amazing all-star band. And as Steve will know, or Roger, you've been there as well. It's a different level of playing, different challenges for me, for certain. I'd certainly say I'm a classical player. I certainly feel like a classical player when I sit in that band and I hear the versatility of the players there. So it's nice to try and learn something new and aspire to the great players that are there. Me and Steve, we had a Zoom night just a few nights ago with the players, and it's you pinch yourself sometimes when you see the people. We were talking to Wycliffe Gordon, Joe Alessi, and Jens Lindemann. They're all friends that just sort of sit in the band and play. Wycliffe plays second trombone. It's Joe Alessi played second trombone. It's incredible, really. So it's a new challenge, and that I absolutely love.
Yeah, it's all part of your ongoing musical adventure, I guess. But I mean, in contrast to Ailsa, who was born in Scotland and came down to Wales and settled in Wales. I mean, you're Welsh and you were born in Wales, but you went away from Wales and now you back to Wales, didn't you? So tell us a little bit about what happened when you grew up and developed as a player as a youngster.
I was playing for Tredegar band at that point when I was 17. I've already been there a few years and was really enjoying it. And as a typical 17-year-old, maybe it's not a typical 17-year-old, but certainly for me, I didn't really know where I was going or particularly what I wanted to do. I just passionately loved my tenor horn. I wanted to be a great player. I wanted to be a soloist. At that time, I'd already... Oh, this sounds geeky now. I shouldn't be saying these things. At that time, I already had the Fairies Double Champion CD and a CD they did called Works of Berlioz. And I remember listening to that band thinking, oh, that is absolutely brilliant. I'd love to play for them one day. And it was Nick Childs who was conducting Tredegar, said, have I auditioned for music college, or was I thinking about auditioning for music college? And I said, I'd only really thought about Cardiff University. Royal Welsh College didn't have a music college at that time. That shows my age now, doesn't it? So he encouraged me to travel to Manchester and take an audition, which I did, and I was fortunate to be offered a place there. And that's where I met Sandy Smith. And actually, Sandy Smith did come down to Wales before that as a guest soloist with my youth band, the Gwent Youth Band. And I got to hear him play. And realised quickly how inferior I was as a horn player. So, yeah, in 1998, then I moved up to Manchester then to enrol at the college, and who knows what. And I was fortunate when I went there to be doing some depping with different bands, such as Grimethorpe and other bands. And then the first on seat, this is almost a similar story to Ailsa, the first on seat at Fairies became available. And my teacher was Sandy Smith, and he was the solo horn player at Fairies. So I was offered the seat there, and Jim Gorley was the conductor of Fairies and was head of wind and percussion at the Royal Northern at the same time as well. So it was an incredible opportunity to play for that band and sit next to my teacher and learn everything that I was doing wrong. Yeah, and he Sandy was a massive inspiration, and it's from there. It's the same as Ailsa's story, this, isn't it? From there on in, it sort of takes off.
Yeah.
So when you
so how long were you with Fairies?
Just about 7 years, six or 7 years.
Yeah. Now, did you go from Fairies directly back to Wales and to Corey?
I did, yeah. So 2004 was my last competition with Fairies, which would have been the Europeans in Glasgow. And then I think it was, yeah. And then I moved down to Wales, and my first contest with Corey then was the Open that year, which I think is the one where there was a choice of 3 test pieces at the Open, and we did St Magnus and came second.
Very good.
It's a long time ago now.
Yeah, I guess, isn't it? I mean, and I mean, you've developed a reputation, obviously, through when you were Cellarhorn with Fairies and then with Corey as well, as someone who's had an absolutely formidable technique amongst, you know, many other skills. The regime which enabled you to kind of develop that technique, was that something you sort of inherited from Sandy, or how did that kind of happen?
I think music college would be the answer to that. A music education. I think before music college, it was a case of wanted to practice but not really knowing what to practice, and you sort of get the music stand out and you put something on the stand, and it ends up as aimless blowing, really, just playing and playing and hoping to get better. And by the time I got to college then, and Sandy and also playing at Fairies, it was easy to highlight what my weaknesses were. And then it quickly became apparent that I needed to be organised in my practice and start getting some practice schedules together. And the Royal Northern was a really good platform for me to learn that from. Not specialising in one particular thing in your practice, but trying to cover everything in your practice, a little and everything, rather than trying to sort of do your high notes one day and your low notes another day and your articulation another day. It helped me become very, very organised. And that sort of planning enables your playing to grow together. It's a good question, Phil, actually, because I think, you know, as brass band players, for all of us, we have to be incredibly, we forget this sometimes, we have to be incredibly versatile players. In other words, if we look outside, we might have big band players or orchestral players. They become the sort of specialist players. But for a brass band player, in a typical brass band concert, we might have a march, a hymn tune, an orchestral overture arrangement, a test piece, some solos, some jazz pieces. So the brass band player in a 2-hour concert is actually exposed to all different styles of music. So we have to be incredibly balanced in our own practice. I think everybody would love to have high notes like Maynard, but if we try too hard to do that, our tone might suffer, or articulations and different things. So to excel all the way, I think it's important to have a practice schedule there that has a little of everything, so you become an all-round player, and you will allow your technique to develop that way, rather than trying to be good at one thing. Ailsa is a wonderful example of that, why she got the seat at Corey. You can pigeonhole some players and say, oh, that player has a lovely sound, or that player has good dynamics, and that player has... Ailsa had absolutely everything at the age of 17. So that's where you see the potential of, right, let's take that and improve everything up and up and up and up and up. And that's what will make you a great brass band player, not the so-called specialist.
We've got a great photograph of you here with Ailsa, 2010, I think, when you just won the European Championships. That must be a great memory.
Yeah, that was our second one, perhaps, part of the hat trick. They're all great memories. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my first one, so that's why I chose that picture. Couldn't believe it. 18 and I won the Europeans.
Amazing feeling.
Yeah, fantastic.
While we're on the subject, Phil, can I just ask? I've got a question here from Mike Davidson for Owen, and he's saying, while you're talking about your practice, he says, "What is the secret to your high notes on a tenor horn?" I know it's a strange question, and you sort of answered it already, but is there anything in particular you do?
Yeah, there's no secrets. If we're all looking for a quick fix or a magic trick, regrettably there aren't any. If you're looking to build your higher range as part of a complete player, for me it's like foundations and building from your foundations. If you want to build a bungalow, you only have small foundations. If you want to build a skyscraper, you have to have bigger foundations. So I think the low range is very important. When you play low, the body's very relaxed. There's not much tension going on, and you can utilize that airstream. So I like to play scales or arpeggios that start low and ascend high. So when you play low, you lock into the feeling of the body, stay relaxed, the airflow is moving, and then you climb up and up and up without trying to increase that tension. And if you just do that every day, just gently, no abuse, don't try and tie your lips out, but every day just sort of push up and up and up in any scale, chromatic, even a C scale if you like, doesn't really matter. But I think if you start low, where it feels comfortable, and then gently take it up, try not to have a separate register, try not to just keep playing high notes all the time. Let it all, try and all be complete.
You'll be watching me practice.
We've got another video here of you, Owen, playing with Corey. I believe it's at one of the Brass in Concert championships. Let's have a listen to that.
Okay, so that was the incredible Owen Farr there playing with Corey Band to Brass in Concert. Thanks so much, Owen, for joining us here on Besson Fridays at home this evening. You'll be sticking around, obviously, and joining in the general discussion. But it's been my pleasure to work with both of these incredible horn players. Myself, as a one-time, half decent horn player, it's been a real pleasure to work with, have both of these players in my band, and also to have you both here this evening. So thank you both very much. The other thing which I know will become more and more of a problem as we go on is the financial effects of not being able to meet as a band. And obviously a lot of bands are sort of reliant on their summer season to earn a little bit of money. And then looking further ahead, obviously Christmas is still a long way away, but I know a huge number of bands, certainly in the UK, use the Christmas season for caroling and earning the money which they'll then use to run the band for a whole another complete year. So I think, Steve, you and I have been looking at a couple of the options of some of the financial help that might be out there for bands. What have you come up with?
Well, I've got some news just the last couple of days. In fact, 5 days from now, 5 days from the 17th of July, so from the 22nd of July, the project grants for the Arts Council England open up again. They were diverting all their funds, emergency funds for COVID things. So there's £60 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but I guess once you spread it out over so many different organisations, £60 million available until April next year. And so what they're asking bands to do is to submit under the Arts Council Grantium portal. So you're really going to need some help, but I would really urge bands to think about finding someone that can put in grant applications, because money is available. And the important thing is that they have to apply for a project rather than say we just need some cash. So I think it's a pretty unique opportunity for bands who are obviously going to be pretty desperate for money, is to use this in a creative way to think of a project. And it has to form under the strategy of Arts Council England, let's create 2020 to 2030. So the idea to be creative. So it could be recording projects, it could be collaborative projects, it could be commissioning projects, it could be, bringing aspects of the community together. So this money is available. I'm going to put up some websites now on the screen for two other funding sources that I've heard about that bands can apply to: the UK Community Foundation and the Esmere Fair Band Organisation. So I think bands should really start to see what money is available. It's quite hard to apply for this, so you may need to get some help, but under this Grantium portal there is up to £60 million and it's available for brass bands. So there could be something there. Yeah.
I know Brass Bands England have people available who can help member bands fill in application forms for things such as this. And I know certainly in terms of my band, Corey, we're not an English band, but we do fall under the Arts Council Wales jurisdiction, and Arts Council Wales have got a similar kind of fund, or they did have a similar kind of fund. But you're right, Steve. What we did in the case of Corey was we had to come up with a number of kind of creative and innovative projects and then bid for the money to carry out those projects. So we've got an online competition coming up. We've got a youth brass weekend. We've got various distance performances with different guest groups, and we link in with choirs and other groups as well. So bands do need some ideas to get the money. It's not something that will just be handed to them on a plate. But that, as you say, that money is becoming available, and bands really need to kind of look into that. The other news that we had in the UK recently was a kind of arts and culture bailout from the UK government to the tune of £1.5 billion, which is basically for kind of the venues which brass bands are reliant upon to actually play in. So, my hope is that this we don't really know the details of how this grant's going to be administered yet, but my hope is that some of the venues are going to stand much more of a chance of still actually existing and being in business once us brass bands go back after that. But on the surface of it, that's really good news, isn't it?
Brilliant. Yeah.
It is really good news, because without the venues, there's nowhere to play. So what we need to do is to make sure that we can play soon, so everything comes together. And we're all worried about it. But I think, if everyone's positive and everyone keeps an interest, and everybody keeps in shape, and, then this whole wonderful music business can keep turning. And Roger, you were going to mention about the dealers, instrument dealers around the country, because a lot of them are opening up as well now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. We talk about the venues being rescued, if you like, or being thrown a lifeline. I think we've also got to think about the retailers, musical instrument, music publishers. If we don't do something to help them stay in shape, there's not going to be anywhere for us to get instruments. It's going to be all online, and we know that can work for some people, but it's not that satisfactory. But I know all the people that supply Besson instruments, all the Besson dealers, are currently either making appointments for people to go in and try instruments under strict conditions, obviously, or they're sending them out to people to try. They're sent out fully cleaned, and when they come back, they put them through a thorough cleaning process anyway. And I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but at the factory, instruments that are coming out of the factory now come with a COVID sticker. They've been made and finished under strict conditions, the German government conditions, that allow them to put a sticker on at the end of the process when they're finally boxed up to say that they're COVID free. Everything's under strict. We know how efficient the German manufacturing industry can be. And they've got these stickers, and they are adhering to it like you wouldn't believe. It's very strict guidelines, but they're coming that way. Then the dealers are following that up by cleaning, sending out cleaning when they come back. So yeah, if you want an instrument, you want to try an instrument, you're thinking of doing it. Even little things, support your local dealer. If you want to see one on the high street, we've got to go out there and support them.
Yeah. Good advice. Thanks very much for that. I mean, but for the moment, I guess everyone's still stuck just playing at home for the most part. So we wanted to finish tonight's episode of Besson Fridays at Home by just doing a little roundup from all of you. As I said at the top, we've got 4 just fantastic, unbelievable players here on the Zoom call. So I'd just like to go around and get your practice tips, really, particularly lockdown practice tips. So I don't know who wants to get the ball rolling.
Owen, come on, let's hear yours first.
My practice tips.
Yeah. How do people keep in shape when they're getting frustrated and, all that?
Trying to get too excited and have a burst and forget your rest periods. So you might think, I've got a window here to practice, and you practice and practice and practice and practice until your lips are tired, and then you put the instrument back in the case. This is a difficult one to say, but one thing I learned after finishing at Corey, and it probably took about 6 months later. I noticed in my playing, I couldn't put my finger on it. I felt a little tentative. I was practicing more than ever. I knew I was improving on many skills in my playing, but something didn't feel right. And that's when I realized it's because I wasn't at band anymore. I wasn't playing dynamics. Yeah. Everything I was practicing, all the hours every day I was practicing was all roughly around MP, MF, and some pianissimo stuff. So if it's difficult when you're at home, but if you get the opportunity also, now people aren't at band, is to still try to expose the embouchure to some dynamics. Because if you play a middle G fortissimo and play the middle G pianissimo, it's a different airspeed. You're exposing your lips to different things. So that's what I think might feel a bit strange to many of us when we go back to band, that we haven't had that variable in the dynamic. So if that's possible at home, because that's the tricky thing, isn't it, when you're at home? I'm not saying you have to start blowing fortissimo left, right, and centre, but the little crescendo here and there, playing as soft as you can, and then bring it into a louder dynamic. I think that'll keep you all in good shape and ready for when you go back to your rehearsals.
Yeah, good advice. I remember you saying that to me actually soon after you left, Corey. It was the dynamics that were starting to desert you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Every band that returns sort of in a few months' time is going to be brilliant at the mezzo forte. What about you, Elsa? Have you got any tips for lockdown practice?
Yeah, I think for me, I did struggle with the motivation at the start a bit, because I definitely practice mostly so that I sound good at a band and sound good in a concert and things. And when that's taken away from you, you can feel a bit like, oh, well, what am I practicing for? But something that I've always known, and obviously I've always known this, but something that's helped me stay motivated is every single thing that you practice, think about why you're practicing it. So you can play a C scale, but think about why you're doing it and what is going to improve in your playing when you do it, rather than just kind of blindly playing through your practice routine. And that helps me stay motivated. And yeah, that's what's keeping me going a bit.
Thank you very much indeed for that. That's really useful stuff for people can use at their home practice there. As you know, the last part of the Besson Fridays broadcast is usually some questions which people have sent in. Do we have any questions remaining? I know we've asked a few as we've gone along. Steve, have you got some further questions?
Yes, I have a question for Ailsa from a Michelle Drew in Birmingham. Ailsa, is it about time that we had a solo CD from you? What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, we all do.
I'd definitely like to do a solo CD. Yeah, just
right. That's
it.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Are there any?
What's it called? What are you calling it, Elsa?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
Ailsa's procession. Is that coming?
Yeah, we all.
Actually, I've got a question there for Ailsa. You just remind me of something. Ailsa, you mentioned at the start of this that you played tenor horn and only tenor horn, but that's not quite true, because you were a keen piper before you moved to Cardiff. And when you go back to Scotland, do you still pick up the bagpipes and have a little tootle? And maybe on the back of this, Phil, there might be an idea with Highland Cathedral or something, maybe.
This could be a bonus track on the solo CD.
Oh. I'm thinking more perhaps in concert or something. Ailsa can walk in.
Well, let's let Elsa answer the question.
I'm not sure the quality of the bagpipes is quite up to my tenor horn playing. You don't want to hear it in public.
Oh, we do.
That's just cruel, Owen.
Yeah.
Good answer. Anything else in the post bag this week?
Yes, I've got a question for you, Phil. This has come from Bob Mears, who says, Phil, when do you think we can start playing as a band again? I'm really missing it. It's been way too long.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly agree with that. And that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that. We talked a little bit about it earlier. I'm sure there'll be some sort of interim stages that we can go through before we get the bands back together again. And I do think outside seems much more likely than inside. So yeah, hopefully our correspondent has got some ideas from some of the chat that we had earlier. I mean, I have the answers to many questions, but I don't have the answer to that question, I'm afraid. It could be weeks, could be months. No one's thinking years, surely. I don't know.
We just have to stay positive, don't we, Phil?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and fundraising for the bands and individual practice, I think collectively we have to stay strong. And then when it all starts again, we can be revitalized. That's my dream for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all dream, don't we? And we dream of getting back to it. But before then, there's plenty to occupy you. And we all have to improve our levels of patience, don't we?
That's it.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your questions, and keep your questions coming in. We'll need questions for our next episode of Besson Fridays at Home. That's just about it for this episode. Just remains for me to thank our two very special guests today. Thank you, Ailsa, for being with us.
No problem.
And thank you very much, Owen, for joining us as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Great stuff.
And thanks also to you, Steve and Roger. We'll be seeing you again next time. So from all of us here at Besson Fridays at Home, thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in a fortnight's time for the next episode. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Go do some practice.